Good afternoon. Today on Business Success in Six with Stacie, I have James Jackson here from Spotz in Madison. James, thanks for jumping on with me today.
Thanks. Happy to be here. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. We're excited to learn and share your business with our clients and community. You have a really relevant business for our clients and community. So if you're okay, I'd like to ask you 6 questions about Spotz. Is that okay?
Let's go.
All right. When people ask you what Spotz does, how do you describe it?
The easiest way for us to describe it is, we're a place for you to go and find any space that you would like for anything you want to do, whether it's, having grandma's 80th birthday party to, a string of basketball practices for your kids. We want to help hosts who have spaces manage those spaces and make them publicly available and create that awareness for all the people around them. So think almost like Airbnb, but non-overnight stay community spaces. You got something you want to go do, you need a place to do it. We want you to go to find spots to find it.
That's wonderful. And there are so many spaces that are underutilized and need revenue. So what were your plans when you started your business and how has that changed?
Yeah, so our plans when we started were to, go crazy, grow like mad and exit and all the crazy success stories. But launched this business in January of 2020. So we help people gather and we launched right before a global pandemic. So not the best in timing, but in a lot of ways it had to tap into all my experience in running businesses over the years to figure out how to navigate that and really think about what the business looks like. So we launched as a software as a service company only for hosts to pay us as a service and have better tools to manage their facilities, and pivoted more towards how do we make this accessible to anybody with a space now that people all have to think about their spaces differently and are looking for new ways to make money and drive revenue. So we made it more accessible. We went to a model where it's more success fee based. When somebody gets a successful rental of their space, then we win. So we're more aligned, more accessible, and more open to the types of venues and spaces that we have. Everything from the back room of your favorite coffee shop or restaurant to a large sports complex like Grand Park in Indianapolis, or Madison Parks here in Madison, Wisconsin, that has over 700 rentable spaces. So really making it accessible and giving one place for the community to find all those cool spaces and kind of keep that engagement local.
Absolutely. And that actually takes us right into the next question. What is the biggest way you impact the community?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I've always been big in community and coached and done a lot with youth, and I think it's interesting when you're trying to grow a company on a national level and even international, you can still have a massive local impact. And when most of us think about renting spaces, they're the obvious choices, right? You go to the hotels, and which are all great, a lot locally owned as well, but really it's about how do you keep that awareness of what is around you, and today you have to go to each individual restaurant or venue or community center's website or Boys and Girls Club, which has great facilities, and kids are there from 4 to 7 typically, but they're beautiful facilities and they could use that extra rental revenue to add more services back into the community and those kids. So by creating that awareness of what's around us and what's accessible, and even giving people more creative ideas to break some cabin fever, it's been called, whatever it might be, when they're looking at venues around them, it keeps that all local and helps those businesses that may have struggled in the last couple of years to thrive and find unique ways to create revenue and exposure to what their core business may be if it's not just renting out their spaces. So that impact we feel pretty strongly. It's a really cool way to grow the company too, in concentric circles around communities and geographies. And that's been pretty important to us. And we're seeing that in our recent uptick in how hosts have jumped on to publish their spaces on Spotz.
Absolutely. That is a huge community impact. And when you were talking about Boys and Girls Club, I think that's so interesting that, yeah, there really is only 3 hours or 4 hours where they're using it. You have that other time. So you're raising money for them, but then who's stepping into that space that might not even know that they have a real passion for that nonprofit. So I think that just continues and continues. So thank you for the work you're doing in the community.
Oh, we're happy to do it. That's a good point you make, because I think of, could be CEO groups or book clubs, or, there's just a wide range of different organizations that may not know about a particular place or may not be really familiar with all the things that Boys and Girls Club do, or pick your cool nonprofit that's community based.
Yeah.
But if they had their meetings there, or it gives you an opportunity to get into that world and maybe even get a couple of minutes of exposure to what good things that they do. And that's going to just create more opportunities, relationships, potential revenue for them. That all just feeds back into the community. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing if you kind of follow that circle all the way through.
Yeah, that definitely is. So, I mean, you talked about opening the business right before the global pandemic. So I know that's a major challenge. What is one challenge you have faced that other business owners could learn from? Do you have any other challenges that you'd like to share or advice?
Yeah, I think, a couple of things, being a startup that's raised, venture money, I would say, there's a couple pieces. One, I turned down some money early on. It didn't feel right.
Mhm.
And that was prior to the pandemic really taking hold. And even though it cost, me personally and some of the people that were supporting us, to kind of get through those times, it was difficult. Had we had that money, we would have spent it as if we had that money. And we didn't know, and nobody knew when the pandemic was going to, kind of trickle down at least a little bit. And so it would have all been for naught. And I think that would have made things really tough, and we may not be around right now. So I think trusting your gut and not taking that then and waiting was super helpful. And just lessons learned about every day was, what is the opportunity in this for us? I mean, we help people gather and the world is shut down. So that alone is the giant red flag, right? But
Mm.
what it made people do is think about spaces differently. And it actually opened up markets and opportunity for us, and a way for us to pivot to be part of that solution instead of just sitting in a corner thinking, the sky's falling. So I think just, looking and searching for the opportunity, staying positive. And then
Mhm.
the other piece I would say is just really be flexible with your business. We leveraged outsourcing and contract labor to a great extent because
Mhm.
we had to remain flexible. And certainly for me, I'm passionate about not hiring somebody unless I can see at least 6 to 12 months of window where I know that they can feel secure, because that's life changing for people.
Yeah.
And just didn't make that decision if I didn't feel comfortable. So I think making sure you had the right partnerships and leverage those. There's a lot of ways to scale a business correctly, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing to outsource either. I'd love to have our team be massive right here, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So keeping flexibility in the business is key for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the opportunities that you create for somebody else, if you have to outsource in the meantime, is only going to help your business in the future, because it's going to keep you growing, and then you can have people right here next to you. So yeah, it's better to grow that way than to shut down, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of people we can help, including ourselves. So being around is sometimes surviving is thriving, depending on the particular business climate.
Yeah, and I keep thinking about these spaces too, even more. Like when we say we couldn't gather at first, but so all of those banks, all of those libraries were already being used, and you could
Right,
only have so many people. So what you've really done is expanded so people can truly gather even during a pandemic. That's
right.
incredible. Absolutely. What does the future look like to you? And do you have an exit plan?
Yeah, it's funny because you get the exit question all the time, especially if you're raising investor money. And I think maybe you're not supposed to say this out loud, but that's a crystal ball situation for anyone, right? If you're growing
Absolutely.
and you're profitable and you have attention, there's people that want to acquire you. There's no shortage of that, and there's still plenty of money in the market, from a PE perspective and acquisition perspective. And I think that's ultimately our goal, because we have investors, would be to have some exit. But I see that being something substantial and aligned with people that see the same vision of what really builds communities and makes us profitable. Our future, quite simply, is growing in concentric circles around communities that have adopted Spotz, and building out that methodology of this is what it takes for us to launch a successful community, and we're proving that now. And
Mhm.
that repeatable process, once I can get that to a level of a repeatable process, I know the math that goes into it from a cost perspective, and when we get that first dollar of return,
Yep.
I think that's when we become a very attractive exit target to somebody aligned with the fact that, hey, everything starts with a venue and we will know what's going on in a particular area and who's going to be there doing it. And that data is pretty valuable as well. So I think our opportunities, if we take care of our own and take care of the growth plan and the profitability, those exit options are pretty solid. And for me at this stage of my career, I want to build something successful that I can feel proud of. I've been part of a lot of company turnarounds and different things, acceleration. It's all been great in my career, but this can be more my baby, my team's baby, that we can really sink our teeth and make it successful and turn it over to some great hands and feel really proud about it. So I don't like to prescribe specifically what that looks like. I think it's the journey is the fun part, and getting to that point where we have those opportunities, and they'll take care of themselves.
That's very, very exciting. Would you just share with our viewers the different areas you're in? I know you're in Dane County, but you talked about some of the other spaces and communities.
Yeah, it's super important. Again, the way we need to grow is you have to have a substantial amount of hosts first, right? Before there's something for a renter to want to go look at when they look at your site. And we really solved, and I'll kind of back up to answer that question. We solved three key things, right? We want to create awareness to the amazing spaces that are around us, because most people just don't know how many. Most people wouldn't know that City of Madison has 700 rentable spaces alone.
Yeah.
That's just Madison Parks, not all the businesses around. There's no awareness of what's around us necessarily. There's no accessibility in one place to find it. And the reason those first two are a problem is because the host can't just throw things on some exchange without some tools to know who's in my space. I need to approve this first. I need to be able to manage it. I need to alert my teams how to prepare the space. And we solve a lot of those problems. So that's kind of the basic of how we get to these communities. So the second piece to doing that is having the right host and creating that density. So we've started in the greater Madison area where we're headquartered, greater Milwaukee, and it's already expanding into Green Bay and other parts of the state. So those two major key markets, greater Indianapolis area, we have Grand Park Sports Complex, a 400-acre sports complex of mixed use. It's really cool. So that was a natural place for us to go. Denver area, because we've got some great partnerships there and investors as well, and we've seen that kind of growing. And then the other big key market right now is Texas. Texas, we want to go somewhere south where there's a little less seasonality, and it's just kind of taken off. Our model seems to resonate really well, especially in the Dallas and Houston area, and we've seen that kind of blow up. So we're coming across the country. We have clients other places as well, but those are our focus, at least in the next 4 to 6 months.
Congratulations. That is growing so fast. Final question for you, James. All subjects open. What inspires you most?
Yeah, I think for me, having been involved in community and a number of different company turnarounds, I just love the building of teams, especially when you can have some local community impact. So the two things that have brought me joy throughout my life is coaching and athletics and sports and team building. And when you really think about how that happened, it all happens at a local community level. So it's a bit serendipitous, but this business allows me to really scratch both of those itches, so to speak. And I can build teams and we can be successful and cheering on, all while helping communities kind of thrive. And even though you build a national company, it's still got such a local feel because you're keeping people engaged with the spaces directly around them. And then, of course, as you're traveling, you're finding spaces as well. But those two key pieces for me is team building and community building. It's just a lot of fun. It's cool to see that kind of build out on a business level.
Absolutely. And I can appreciate that on a business level, also on a personal level. I have 3 boys. I'm a soccer coach, and we're always looking for spaces to do things. So it definitely impacts so many different people. Thank you so much for your time today. If our viewers want to get in touch with you or get in touch to utilize your business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The easiest way is to go to our site, findspotz.com. You can track down our information, our info at FindSpotz. I see that myself. Easiest way to reach out. Love to partner with anybody we can, and we also help host. When people bring us hosts, we have an affiliate program to take care of them for that. So the more people on Spotz, the more of a benefit for all the communities around. So love to reach out and hear the feedback from anybody out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. You
Thank
have a
you.
wonderful year and keep growing and supporting the community and businesses. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.